Hello everyone, welcome to Go with CTech YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to install an energy efficient LED bulb in an existing outdoor floodlight. I'm going to be removing the existing controls, replacing the 70 watt sun bulb with this new energy efficient 30 watt LED bulb. I bought this bulb online. The manufacturer is Osram. It's a 30 watt bulb. Its screw type is an E27. The color temperature is 2700 Kelvin and the light intensity is 3600 lumen. For this tutorial, the tools that you'll need to do this, you're going to need a flathead screwdriver, you're going to need a wire strippers, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, you're going to need a pliers, and you're going to need a multimeter. Let's start the tutorial.
Before I begin the install, I wanted to explain the components in the existing floodlight and how I'm going to install the LED bulb. Here is a schematic of these existing components. The supply voltage is 230 volts alternating current. The electrical supply to the floodlight is controlled by the light switch in the house. I live in Ireland and the cable and colour code for domestic wiring is brown for the live or phase wire, blue for the neutral, and green and yellow for the earth. I'll be removing the ballast, capacitor and sound bulb from the floodlight. The ballast and capacitor are no longer needed because the LED bulb can be connected directly to the electrical supply. Sound bulbs require high voltages to ignite the gas within the bulb to radiate light. This is the reason why the control gear is installed in the floodlight. Here's a schematic of the floodlight with the LED bulb. As you can see, the control gear has been removed from the floodlight. The electrical supply is wired directly to the floodlight fitting. Let's get started with the install.
Before taking off the cover, you need to make sure that the floodlight is disconnected from the electricity supply. So to do that, make sure you go to your light switch, you make sure that it's turned off, and you do a visual inspection to make sure that the light is off. We're also going to check with the multimeter that there's no voltage once we have the cover off. But just as a precaution, make sure that the switch is off, the light switch is off before taking off the cover. The bulb may be damaged, but please do check this before taking off the cover. Next, I'm going to use Phillips screwdriver and I'm going to take off the 4 screws at the 4 corners of the cover of the floodlight. So let's do that. It's the first screw. Second screw. Third screw. That's the 4th screw. And just be careful taking off the cover that you don't damage the bulb. You can put the cover on the ground and put the 4 screws inside the cover. To take off the bulb, just unscrew it anti-clockwise. And as you can see, it's an E27 screw head, and this is the 70 watt sound bulb that we're going to be replacing. To take off this inner cover, you just need to unscrew this screw at the bottom, and again at the top. And this inner cover comes off. I've left the top screw screwed in 1 or 2 threads, so it'll be easier to put the cover back on. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to remove this igniter capacitor and I'm going to remove this ballast. Before I do any of that, I need to make sure that there's no electrical supply on the light, and to do that I'm going to move my multimeter to this setting here. I'm going to put the red probe in where the brown cable terminal is. I'm going to put the black probe where the blue cable is. If you get a reading of 230 volts, there's still electrical supply on this floodlight, and you need to disconnect the electrical supply before proceeding. But as you can see, the voltage from the multimeter is 0, so there is no electrical supply on this particular floodlight, so it's safe to work on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disconnect the neutral cable going to the capacitor. So to do that, I'm going to use my flathead screwdriver. I'm going to disconnect the blue cable. I'm then going to disconnect the ballast from the electrical supply terminals. So that's the ballast removed. And now I'm going to disconnect the earth. And the last cable I need to disconnect is the cable that's actually going to the light fitting, which is this black cable. This is the live cable, or phase cable, it's more commonly used. So I now have the ballast and capacitor disconnected from the light circuit and the supply. So now I'm going to disconnect both components. So the igniter just pops out. You just pull it out. It's a quick push in release mechanism. And I'm just going to use my Phillips screwdriver to unscrew the ballast. So I'm unscrewing the top screw, and I'm unscrewing the bottom one. So this is your ballast, this is your igniter capacitor. Both of those components are no longer needed for the energy efficient LED bulb. So now what I need to do is, black wire is my live phase wire and the white wire is my neutral wire. So I'm going to wire the black wire into the live terminal, which is connected to this brown cable here. Just to make sure that there's a good electrical connection, I'm just going to pare back a small bit of the insulation. To that, I'm using my wire strippers. And I'm going to use my pliers just to fold over the connection. Make sure that there's a good strong contact on the terminal, like that. Then I'm going to get my flathead screwdriver. Going to open up the terminal slightly. I'm going to push in the cable. I'm going to tighten up the terminal. Main thing to remember is that there should be no exposed copper, and also that the insulation shouldn't catch on the terminal connector. So that's my live wire connected. I'm now going to reconnect the earth cable that's attached to this metal framing on the light. So again, I'm going to use my wire strippers just to pare back some of the insulation on the cable. I'm going to twist the stranding together. I'm just going to use my pliers then to create a U shape. That's just to allow a better connection to the terminal. So, middle terminal. Tighten that up. Make sure that the insulation on the cable isn't catching on the terminal. You want a good connection on the actual copper cable rather than on the actual insulation around the cable. So this is my electrical supply in. So the brown wire is the live or phase. The green and yellow cable, which if you can see here, is my earth cable, and the blue cable is my neutral. And as you can see, the label in the back there is upside down, but L is for live, E is for earth, and N is for neutral. So now I'm going to connect the last cable, which is the neutral, going to the light. And again, I'm going to just use my wire strippers and pare back some of the insulation. And again, I'm going to make that type of U shape to make sure that there's a good electrical connection. So you have that type of U shape on the cable. Make sure and open up the connector terminal with your flathead screwdriver. Place it in. And when you're tightening the terminal, make sure and look in the top of the terminal or the bottom, depending on what way you're wiring it, and make sure that there's a good contact with the copper wire, and make sure that the insulation isn't caught on the terminal connectors. Perfect. And again, just tighten it enough. Don't over tighten it or you'll break the terminal screw. And as a final check, just to make sure that your electrical connections are tight, just give a little pull on each cable. And as you can see, there's a good solid connection to your electrical connectors. So I'm going to put back on the cover again. So that's it. I've removed the ballast and the capacitor. I've rewired the light cables directly into the electrical supply, which is controlled from the light switch inside the house. And now I'm going to put the inner cover back on. So again, start with the top screw and use your Phillips screwdriver. Screw the top cover in and then get the bottom screw as so. Tighten it back up, and I'm going to install the 30-watt LED efficient bulb. So I'm taking it out of the cover. Just be careful taking it out. So this is my 30-watt LED energy efficient bulb. Has the same E27 fitting as the 70-watt sound bulb. So So I'm replacing this bulb with this bulb and removing the controls. So to put in the bulb, just place it in and turn it clockwise, and it should screw into the terminals. Like so. Make sure not to over tighten. Just once you feel the buy point stop, and you know you have a good connection, as you can see there. That seems pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is going to put back on the outer cover. So make sure that you have your 4 screws. Put the cover back on. Use your Phillips screwdriver. Start with the top screw. This is the second screw. And the last one. So there's one final check. Just go around to each screw. Again, don't over tighten, but just make sure that the outer cover is aligned with the base unit. And again, just tighten it up because you want to make sure it's watertight. You don't want any water getting inside, damaging the bulb. That's basically it. That's how to replace a 70 watt sound bulb with a more energy efficient 30 watt bulb.